Hello there, fellow model makers, and welcome back to the second part of our Meng F-102A Case 10 build. Last time, we left off having glued the fuselage halves together. It's time now to start putting the wings together. I have already cut and cleaned the main wing parts. I now glue the upper and lower wing surfaces together. The wing tips and the ailerons are glued in next. Before the wings and the fuselage can be glued together, we need to glue in the wheel well. The weapons bay is now glued to the wings. I dry fit the two parts together. They fit together reasonably well. The wings and the fuselage are now glued in place. There were two minor problem points with the fit. Firstly, this weapons bay did not fit in correctly. This was easily rectified by lifting the weapons bay up and allowing the cement to set. Secondly, the wings are not flush against the fuselage and there is a narrow gap between the two. It's an easy fix, but I will do it later. I cut and cleaned the air intake parts. Before I paint them, I mask away the surfaces that will be cemented with some artist's masking liquid. The parts are given a coat of AK Extreme Metal black base. They are now painted with golden iridescent silver. This was the first time I was using this paint, and I really liked it. Once dry, the masking is removed. The intake parts are then glued together. And finally, the parts are glued to the aircraft. Though the instructions don't call for any weight in the nose, I will add some, just to keep safe. I take some 2-part putty and stuff it inside the nose cone. The nose is then glued on. To fill up the gaps along the wings and the fuselage, I will be using Liquitex modeling paste. This works just as well as any specialized putty and is also much cheaper. I take some paste on an applicator and push it inside the gap. If you don't have an applicator, you can use a toothpick or a cocktail stick. Once the gap is filled, I take a moist Q-tip and wipe away all the extra paste. You can repeat the process till you are satisfied, but this way there is no need to sand away the extra putty later. I will now sand all the seam lines. I use this special tool that I have, which helps me sand on curved surfaces. You can also use sanding sponges or paper. Just try and avoid using hard surfaces like sanding sticks, as they will flatten the curve and then it will not be possible to recover it. Once the sanding is complete, I re-scribe the panel lines with a mini handsaw. If you are not confident about scribing straight lines, you can use a masking tape as reference, as shown here. The smaller panel lines can be re-scribed freehand as well. Lastly, I dab on some extra thin cement to clean up the re-scribed panel lines. To polish the surface, I use Tamiya's polishing compounds. You can use a soft cloth to polish, but I will be using my Dremel hand drill and a polishing attachment. This takes a lot less time than polishing by hand. To mask the canopy, I use Tamiya's super thin masking tape. After experimenting for several years, I have finally settled on this technique. I first complete the outline of the area to be masked. But I don't mask the rounded edges, just the straight lines. You can see I have not applied any masking on the rounded edges. Next, I fill the entire area inside with either tape, as I am doing here, or with masking liquid. While masking with the tape, I once again leave the rounded edges alone. Finally, I use some masking liquid to fill the rounded edges. Here on the front canopy, I use the same technique. This time, I fill the area with masking liquid. The mask canopy is now glued to the kit. Just be careful if you use cement for gluing, like I am. Although it gives a good bond, there is always a danger of fogging the clear parts. So, apply very little cement and leave half the canopy open so that any fumes can escape, rather than get trapped inside. Unfortunately, here you can see I am flouting my own rule, and in my great hurry, I am gluing both parts of the canopy together. We'll see how big a price I pay for this mistake. The canopy is given a coat of light grey blue so that the inside of the canopy matches the colors in the cockpit. Right friends, this plane is now ready for paint. But that is something we will do in the next edition of this series. I hope you liked the video. Do like and subscribe, and do stay tuned for the next part. Till then, good luck and happy modeling.